Hello everyone, welcome to Tara IS. From today, we are going to start with a new series by the name YOGYATHA. This is for UPSC CSAT and specifically targeting Prelims 2025. Through this course, we are aiming to equip you with necessary skills that you would require in order to qualify CSAT for the upcoming Prelims. So let's get into the details of what this playlist has for you. Now, what do we promise to deliver? Firstly, we will have class on alternate day. By that I mean, we'll have a class on Monday. There will not be any class on Tuesday. Again, there will be a class on Wednesday. There will not be any class on Thursday. And there will be a class on Friday. So in this pattern, there will be classes on alternate days. Through this playlist, we'll try building the concepts right from basics. Now, what do I mean by basics? Basics, that too from what level are we going to cover? From what level of basics are we going to cover? Let's look at this by considering few examples. ఇప్పుడు మన ఫస్ట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్లోకి వెళ్దాం. ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ 2017 యూపీఎస్సీ ప్రీవియస్ ఇయర్ క్వశ్చన్. ఈ క్వశ్చన్ ఎలా సాల్వ్ చేయాలి, ఏమేమి ఈక్వేషన్స్ వేయాలి, అవన్నీ ఒక నిమిషానికి పక్కన పెట్టేద్దాం. ఈ క్వశ్చన్లో మనం చూసినట్టయితే ఏం మెన్షన్ చేశారు? కాన్సిక్యూటివ్ ఆడ్ నెంబర్స్. ఇంకొక టర్మ్ ఏంటి? మీన్. సో ఇప్పటిదాకా అయితే మనకి ఆడ్ నెంబర్ అంటే ఏంటి, మీన్ అంటే ఏంటి, కాన్సిక్యూటివ్ ఆడ్ నెంబర్స్ అన్నప్పుడు ఆ ఆడ్ నెంబర్స్ని మనం ఏ విధంగా కన్సిడర్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఇప్పుడు 1, 3, 5 ఇవన్నీ కాన్సిక్యూటివ్ ఆడ్ నెంబర్స్ అవుతాయి. ఇప్పుడు ఒకవేళ మనం 3, 9, 15 ఇలా తీసుకుంటే అవి కాన్సిక్యూటివ్ ఆడ్ నెంబర్స్ అవ్వవు. ఇలాంటి నెంబర్ ఫార్మాట్ని మనం ఏ విధంగా రిప్రజెంట్ చేయాలి, ఇవన్నీ తెలియకుండా ఈ క్వశ్చన్ అనేది సాల్వ్ చేయడం ఈజీ కాదు. ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ మనకి క్లియర్ అవుతాయో, ఇవి ఎలా కన్సిడర్ చేయాలో క్లియర్ అవుతుందో, అప్పుడు ఇలాంటి క్వశ్చన్స్ని మనం ఈజీగా సాల్వ్ చేయొచ్చు. ఈ లెవెల్ నుండి రైట్ ఫ్రమ్ వాట్ ఈస్ అన్ ఆడ్ నెంబర్, వాట్ ఈస్ మీన్, ఇలాంటి జనరల్ ఫార్మ్స్ని ఎలా కన్సిడర్ చేయాలి, ప్రతిదీ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ విల్ బి డెల్ట్ విత్ ఇన్ దిస్ ప్లేలిస్ట్. ఓకే, ఇప్పుడు ఇంకొక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కన్సిడర్ చేద్దాం. ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ చూడండి. ఇది మనం చిన్నప్పుడు స్కూల్లో చేసిన వర్డ్ ప్రాబ్లం క్వశ్చన్ లాగా ఉంది. ఇందులో మనం టర్మినాలజీని గమనించాలి. మెయిన్గా టర్మినాలజీ ఏంటి? 3 times a number అని అంటున్నారు. ఇంకొక టర్మినాలజీ ఏంటి? 2 less than 4 times that same number. ఈ టర్మినాలజీ ఏదైతే ఉందో, ఎప్పటిదాకా అయితే ఈ టర్మ్స్ అర్థం కాదో, మనకి ఈ టర్మ్స్ని బ్రేక్ డౌన్ చేయడం అర్థం కాదు, అప్పటిదాకా మనకి ఈక్వేషన్ ఎలా ఫ్రేమ్ చేయాలో అర్థం కాదు. 3x అని రాస్తాము, 3 times a number అని. 4 times that same number, 4x అని రాస్తాము. 2 less than అని మళ్ళీ అండ్ అని అంటున్నారు. అలా ఈ రెండింటిని ఎలా కనెక్ట్ చేయాలి? ఆ 2 less thanని, ఈ 61ని. హౌ డు వీ కనెక్ట్ దిస్ అండ్ దిస్? దాట్ విల్ బీ అ బిగ్ క్వశ్చన్ మార్క్ అన్లెస్ అండ్ అంటిల్ అవర్ బేసిక్స్ ఆర్ క్లియర్. Okay, if there's a question mark on basics, then there will be a question mark on how to frame this equation. So ఈ క్లాసెస్లో మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే, ఈ టర్మినాలజీ ఏదైతే ఉందో, వీల్ బ్రేక్ దట్ టర్మినాలజీ డౌన్, వీల్ ఫ్రేమ్ దిస్ ఈక్వేషన్స్, అండ్ దెన్ వీ విల్ లెర్న్ హౌ టు రైట్ ఈక్వేషన్స్. నేను మీతో కొన్ని ఈక్వేషన్స్ చేస్తాను ఇన్ క్లాస్. ఈ ఈక్వేషన్స్ ఫామ్ చేయడం ఎప్పుడైతే మనకు ఒక ఐడియా వచ్చేస్తుందో, అప్పుడు ఏజెస్ రిలేటెడ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ కానీ, లేదా ఇప్పుడు ఒక నంబర్ ఇచ్చేసి రివర్స్ ఆఫ్ దట్ నంబర్ ఈజ్ 10 less than ది ఒరిజినల్ నంబర్, అలాంటి రకరకాల లెస్ దాన్, గ్రేటర్ దాన్ అని యూజ్ చేసే టర్మినాలజీస్ అన్నీ మనం క్లియర్గా ఒక ఈక్వేషన్ అనేది ఫామ్ చేయగలుగుతాము. ఈ ఈక్వేషన్ ఫామ్ చేయడం అనేది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ చాలా క్వశ్చన్స్కి. సో ఆ ఈక్వేషన్ ఫామ్ని కూడా రైట్ ఫ్రమ్ దిస్ బేసిక్ వీ విల్ స్టార్ట్ డీలింగ్ విత్. ఓకే, ఇప్పుడు ఎప్పుడైతే మనం మన బేసిక్స్ని క్లియర్ చేసుకుంటామో, ఒక కాన్సెప్ట్ మీద ఇంకో కాన్సెప్ట్ని బిల్డ్ చేసుకుంటూ, ఇలా బిల్డింగ్ బ్లాక్స్ లాగా ఎప్పుడైతే మనం మన కాన్సెప్ట్స్ని బిల్డ్ చేసుకుంటామో, అప్పుడు క్వశ్చన్స్ లైక్ దీస్, ఈ క్వశ్చన్ అనేది పర్మ్యుటేషన్ అండ్ కాంబినేషన్కి సంబంధించింది. ఈ టాపిక్స్ కొన్ని పర్మ్యుటేషన్ అండ్ కాంబినేషన్ కానీ, ప్రాబబిలిటీ కానీ, దే ఆర్ ఫెల్ట్ అ లిటిల్ అన్కంఫర్టబుల్ బై మెనీ ఆఫ్ ది ఆస్పిరెంట్స్. ఎప్పుడైతే మనం మన కాన్సెప్ట్స్ని బ్లాక్ బై బ్లాక్ బిల్డ్ చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్ళామో, అప్పుడు మ్యాథ్స్ కానీ నంబర్స్తో కానీ మనకు అసోసియేట్ అయి ఉన్న ఫియర్ అనేది కంప్లీట్గా ఎలిమినేట్ అవుతుంది. వన్స్ దట్ దేర్ ఇస్ నో ఫియర్, ఇట్ ఈస్ దిస్ ఫియర్ దట్ స్టాప్స్ అస్ ఫ్రమ్ లెర్నింగ్ and applying things with ease. సో ఈ ఫియర్ని కనుక మనం ఎలిమినేట్ చేసినట్లయితే how are we doing that? We are doing that by building the concepts right from basics. We are trying to make our basics clear. We are building the concepts block by block, that too in a logical sequence. You'll see that in classes on how we do it logically. There is no hurry, there is no rush. Everything will be dealt with in greater detail and with clarity, and they'll be taken slowly. There is no rush. Once the concepts are clear, once they are built properly, after that advanced topics that, not really, but those topics that are felt a little uncomfortable by aspirants, for example, be it probability or be it permutations and combinations, they will be dealt with. All of the topics that are mentioned, they will be dealt with. Okay, so this playlist will be useful for anybody and everybody who's preparing for UPSC CSAT for 2025 or for any other government exams or any other competitive exams. Okay, I hope now it is clear to you as to what I meant by basics. Let me reiterate it once again, that we'll try to build things from basics and take them to a higher level. This, even if you're a beginner, even if you're somebody who's having a fear of maths or fear of numbers, anybody and everybody like that can find this course to be, or this playlist to be very, very useful. So please make good use of it. Now, so in classes, you'll also get to understand as to how to handle previous year questions. How do we handle it? Like, we are making our concepts clear. We are also learning things in a logical sequence. After each and every concept, I'll solve with you in class few previous year questions that are associated with that concept. Also, I'll give you few questions that you have to solve as a part of the assignment. Okay, so that way we'll also cover the PYQs. We'll also identify the patterns, or we'll also identify different types of models that are being asked from different topics, so that once we cover a greater number of models and once our concepts are clear, it becomes very much easy for us to fetch marks and clear CSAT, right? I hope that's clear. So in short, if I have to summarize to you as to what we are going to deliver or what could you expect from this course, this is going to be a one-stop destination for your CSAT or any and every exam that has quantitative aptitude and reasoning. That exam might be UPSC CSAT or Group 1 or Group 2, any exam. This playlist and these classes are going to be really helpful. So what do you get from our YOGYATHA series? So you could finally bid a goodbye to your maths fears that you were probably carrying since many years, right? Also, since we are working on our concepts and making the concepts crystal clear, you will be exam ready. And since we are also practicing our PYQs, we are also looking at different types of model questions or different patterns, different models. Since we are covering all of these, and since you would also practice PYQs both in class and in assignments, you would definitely be exam ready. And by doing all of this, you would be able to tackle CSAT with full confidence. Okay, so now that I told you on what will you get from that series or what do we promise to deliver you, I also have something for you. What should you do on your part? You should attend classes regularly. Try attending classes regularly. That will maintain the continuity of your learning. Else what happens is after some time you would lose touch with the concept, and again fear starts coming in once you stop solving. So practice is the key, and try to be regular to the classes. Second is, as I said, practice problems regularly after class every day. Also, whatever are the assignment questions that I'll give it to you in class or after class, please try to finish those assignment questions before coming to the next class. Okay, so now let us come to our paper, CSAT, paper 2. The paper is for a duration of 2 hours. It's paper 2 and it's for a total marks of 200. Each question carries 2.5 marks positive, and every wrong question will deduct minus 0.83 marks. That is one third of 2.5 will be your negative marking in case you make one question wrong. You will have 80 questions in total. That goes for 200 marks. And in order to qualify the paper, we need to make 1/3 of the total score, right? So for that, you need at least 27 questions to get right. 27 questions. By 27 questions, I mean 27 into 2.5 will give you 67.5 marks. And with these 67.5 marks, we are going to qualify CSAT, right? So this is the pattern of the exam. These are the number of questions, net positive questions that you have to attempt in order to qualify the CSAT paper, and these are the minimum marks that a candidate is supposed to get in order to qualify CSAT, because 27 questions is the minimum number of net positive questions a candidate is supposed to get right. Okay, so now how do we score these marks? Let us look at the syllabus that is given in the official notification. The notification says paper 2 will contain comprehension, interpersonal skills that will include communication skills, logical reasoning and analytical ability, decision making and problem solving. Then you have general mental ability, basic numeracy at class 10 level, that will have numbers, their relations and orders of magnitude, etc. Then you also have data interpretation like charts, graphs, tables, data sufficiency, that too at class 10 level. So only this much of information is given in our official notification, and from this we don't really get as to what are the topics that are asked in CSAT paper. So we'll discuss in detail in the video itself as to what is the weightage given to each and every topic by looking at the previous year questions and the trends that are followed while asking those questions. Okay, so now as you can see in the graph, this graph contains section wise question trends. Section wise, I mean CSAT paper, if you divide it into 3 broad sections. What are those 3 broad sections? First being our quantitative aptitude, second being our reasoning, and third being our comprehension. So if I divide my CSAT paper into 3 broad sections of quant, reasoning and comprehension, this is the graph that I found for the years from 2014 to 2024, right? So you observe that orange color line marks for quant. So from 2018 onwards, there are around 35 and sometimes it has even reached more than 40. So around 35 to 40 questions in a higher range, you're getting those questions from quantitative aptitude part, right? That's a huge chunk of questions. So now it is clear to us that we cannot ignore this section, and we cannot solely rely on one section because seeing the trends of how UPSC is asking questions in CSAT, sometimes some of the sections are being made tough, so that relying exclusively on one section makes us take huge amounts of risks that can put our selection for mains into a question mark, right? So no section can be ignored, and all we have to do is capture the low-hanging fruits by capturing all of those easy and moderate questions, right? Now for comprehension, we have around 25 to 30 questions that are being asked, and for reasoning part, it is around 10 to 15 questions that are being asked. Given the huge chunk of questions that we are having in quant, that is around 35 to 40 questions that are being asked looking at previous year trend, so that is why we would start the series with quant. First, important topics or all of the topics that cater to the needs of this exam will be covered in detailed manner. Then after quant is finished, we jump to reasoning part, and then we proceed to further parts of the paper, right? So since we are starting off with the quant paper, let's look at the topic wise questions that are being asked and what are the high weightage topics or the topics from which many number of questions are appearing in CSAT paper. This, as you can see, is the year-wise breakdown of the number of topics that were asked from quantitative aptitude part right from the year of 2015 till 2024. Now, I've already discussed with you in the start of the video itself regarding numbers and equation formation. I quoted the example of why learning about equation formation is important for age related problems or any other word problems that would be asked in the paper, right? So that is evident from here as well as to why this topic is important, because every year consistently a certain number of questions are being asked from this topic, right? Then we have the topic of number system, where it has a very high number of questions that are being asked every year. In number system, we have topics like HCF, LCM. Then with regard to exponents, let's say they ask what is the unit digit of 2 power 1685. So questions like these get asked in this number system paper, as to they give you word problems related to odd and even numbers. We'll subsequently deal with these topics as we go on with our classes, but just to give you a brief about the importance of each and every topic that is mentioned here, I'm just quoting certain examples. I hope you get that. Then you have ratio and proportion. In few years there are 0 questions, but in the rest of the years at least 1 question was being asked from this topic, or sometimes more than one. Further, you have the concept of the topic of mixture and alligation. Same is the case with mixture and alligation as well. In few years you do not have any question, but in the rest of the years at least 1 question was appearing from the paper. With regard to time, speed and distance, if this concept of yours is clear, then whatever are the boat problems, upstream, downstream, all of these problems are basically an extension of time, speed and distance. So even for this, there is almost consistently a trend of asking 1 question or 2 questions every year, but since the last 2 years we haven't seen questions as such. Then with regard to time and work, this is another topic where every year you consistently get questions, like 1 question or 2 questions are asked, especially without a miss. Since the year of 2020, you see that 1 or 2 questions are asked from this topic. Then coming to the part of average, in the start of the video I quoted an example saying mean or average. That is what even that question was talking about. So even with respect to average, you have 1 question or 2 questions or 3 questions that are being asked from this chapter. And permutations and combinations, as you know, in 2023 it has created a sensation. Like if you observe it also, from 2015 till 2024, in 2023 this was the highest number of questions that were asked, and because of outliers like these especially, this paper was felt tough by many of the aspirants, right? So nowadays, as you see, there are 1 or 2 questions here and there being asked from these topics also. And however, since this is felt a little challenging or a little tricky by many of the aspirants, we'll deal this topic towards the end of the classes, towards a later end of the classes, right? Then we have probability and permutation and combination. These 2 topics are found to be such topics where students are a little uncomfortable with. But so that is why we'll first focus on building our basics. We'll focus on capturing the low hanging fruits that are our easy and moderate questions. Whatever are the concepts related to it, problems related to it, we'll try getting all of that into our ambit and fetching marks out of those questions, right? Even with regard to probability, you sometimes have question and you sometimes don't have questions. But with regard to percentages, something that you have to note is that every year there are 4 to 5 questions that are being asked from this topic. And percentages is important because from here, percentages has a relation even into the topic of discount, profit and loss. If your percentages topic is good, then it will help you out in topics like profit and loss and discount as well. Though there is no specific consistency with regard to this chapter of profit and loss that is asked, but then 1 or 2 questions that are being asked, you can solve them with ease if your percentages are clear. So there is interdependence between the topics, and since there is interdependence between the topics, that is why we will follow a particular logical sequence, one topic after the other topic after the other topic. So whatever was studied here or whatever was practiced here will be useful here, and whatever was practiced here and here will be useful here, both of them. So that is how we will proceed with in the classes, right? Another section that you see is clocks and calendars. Even in clocks and calendars, consistently there are 2 to 3 questions that are being asked every year. So this also makes it an important section. Then with regard to geometry, there is an inconsistency, but every year you see approximately 1 to 2 questions that are being asked from this chapter as well, right? With regard to age, when your equation formation skill is, you learned how to form your equations, age related problems are just nothing. So if this is sorted, then this is automatically sorted. And how will you ensure that in these classes? We will ensure that by following a logical sequence. So there is nothing to worry at all, right? Even with regard to age questions, you have 1 to 2 questions being asked every year. So that was our PYQ theme based analysis as to the number of questions that were appearing from a particular topic every year, right? So we'll start our classes with the topic of number system. I chose this particularly for certain reasons. First being the number of questions that are coming from this topic. Second being, when you think about maths is all about numbers. Let's say we are considering 2 numbers, A and B, or when you take any number, that number could be an odd number, that number could be an even number, that number could be a natural number, it can be a whole number, it can be an integer, it can be a real number, it can be a rational number. So that number can be any of these. That number can be a prime number, that number can be a composite number, right? And when you take 2 numbers like these, what can you do to them? You can add them, you can subtract them, you can multiply them, you can divide them, right? Also there are operations like square root, cube root, or fifth root, or operations like a square, a cube, a power 5, and so on, right? From here you can build your concept of BODMAS. Okay, so when you take 2 numbers, so the content, so I am explaining this to you just to show you as to how our content would flow, just to give you an idea. If this is not making any sense at this point of time, it's okay. This is just to give you a rough idea as to how we will proceed with the content. First, we'll take 2 numbers. That number could be an odd number, even number, prime, composite. So we'll learn about each of these types of numbers: natural number, whole number, integer, rational number, real number. Knowing about each of these is important because in previous year questions they just mention consider 2 numbers P and Q such that P is real and Q is an integer. Now, if we do not know what a real number is and what an integer is, then we won't be able to solve the question. And our intention was to start with basics. That is why we would start off with what are the types of numbers under these 2 heads. Then we'll talk about some operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the BODMAS rule as they call it. Now, after that, we will deal with the topic of face value and place value. Okay, just to give you an analogy of face value and place value. We know it already. If I have to explain it to you in simple terms, you go to a shop, you buy something and its cost is at around 352 rupees. Okay, now you are paying to the shopkeeper in cash. What do you pay to that person? You pay 300 rupees. You pay 300 rupees, then 50 rupees, then 2 rupees coin, or 1 rupee coins, whatever it is, right? So what are you doing? You're basically trying to break down 352 into 3 chunks like these: 300, 50 and 2. This kind of breaking down of a number into these constituents is what is your place value. Similar to this, we'll try giving such real life analogies and explaining wherever possible. Okay, after completion of certain topic, we'll solve previous year questions from there, and you'll understand that once the topics that we have dealt with are clear, these previous year questions can be easily solved by you. The only thing is just trust in me, trust in us, so that we could permanently bid a goodbye to that fear of maths that you have, make you exam ready, and finally help you tackle CSAT with full confidence, right? So on this note, let me conclude the session here, and from the next class we'll jump into the topic of number system right away and start with the type of numbers. I hope that's fine. I hope each one of you would use these classes and enhance your skills, fill your gaps, and get exam ready so that you could tackle CSAT with full confidence. See you in the next session. Take care.